The Green Bay Packers can have the best offense in the NFL this season.
You are Locked On Packers, your daily Green Bay Packers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Packers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Peter Bukowski, and I cover the Packers for The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you find podcasts, you'll find Locked On Packers, the number one Packers podcast on the internet. And the show for fans who know what happened, they want to know why and how. Thanks to everyone who makes Locked On Packers their first listen every day. We hope you like starting your day with us as much as we like starting our day with you. Today's episode brought to you by our friends at Monopoly Go. I admit it, I have a competitive side, and it is a big fan of Monopoly Go, the mobile hit twist on classic Monopoly. So join your friends and download Monopoly Go now, free on the App Store or Google Play. The Green Bay Packers can have the best offense in the league. Let me say that again. The Green Bay Packers can have the best offense in the league this season. And there is going to be a certain number of you who will say, don't get caught up in what happened in the second half of the season. And there will be a certain number of you who will say, no, that can't be. They weren't that good last year. Don't you remember what happened in the beginning of the season? And both of those things are somewhat reasonable things to think, to say, arguments to make. But even with a slow start to the season, and even with a first-year starter at quarterback, which means a first-year play caller for that quarterback, even though it's not Matt LaFleur's first year calling plays, it's his first year calling plays for Jordan Love. And even with a slew of new starters along the offensive line, an offensive line upheaval, a platoon at left tackle, a platoon at right guard to end the season, and even with the youngest group of pass catchers in modern NFL history, and even with Aaron Jones missing more than half of the season, the Green Bay Packers were fifth in EPA per play last season. They were sixth in DVOA, defense adjusted value over average, for those of you who are new here. One of my favorite stats that exists. They were a top 5 or top 6 offense, even with a slow start and all of those things. I don't have to redo the bit. So, when you look at the teams ahead of them, it is difficult to make the case that any of those teams will be better than the Packers in 2024. That any of those teams have a case even for improvement. Like, it's not just that, offense is sticky. And so year to year, it is much easier to predict the top offenses than the top defenses. Defenses, that's much more variable because it's much more related to who you play. The Bills were ahead of the Packers. Well, they lose Stephon Diggs. Yes, they replaced him with Keon Coleman, but Stephon Diggs was one of the best receivers in the league. I know he got replaced once with a guy who was just as good and eventually better than him. What are the odds that happens twice? And also, Justin Jefferson was a mid-first round pick. Keon Coleman was an early second round pick. There is a difference. And not a universally beloved prospect either. I find it to be unlikely. And a ton of offensive line changes, a ton of overall team changes. I just find it to be difficult to believe they will be better in 2024 than they were last year when Josh Allen had to throw on the Superman cape. The Dolphins fell off in the second half of the year. They were more like the 12th or 14th best offense in the second half when teams started to adjust. A lot of the things like EPA per play and DVOA is a result of the first 6-8 weeks of the year for the Dolphins. They score 70 against the Broncos. That's sort of outlier can carry you a long way. Are you going to get healthy seasons from Tua? Are you going to get healthy seasons from Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and Devon Achane? That seems unlikely to me. Plus, you have this decision hanging over the entire organization on what to do with Tua Tagovailoa. The Cowboys, they're on a razor's edge. Dak Prescott probably not going to be back. Was just talking to someone about that the other day who's very, very keyed into that situation. Said, no, this is probably his last year. They're probably not going to get a deal done. That's probably toast. That's not good for harmony. I don't know what to make of the Ravens. I just don't know what to do with that, but I don't know what the case is for. I guess, Zay Flowers year 2, you have Todd Monken year 2, but Lamar Jackson just played at an MVP level. Is he going to do that again? Is he going to stay healthy? I don't know. What's the case for them to be better? And the 49ers, Brock Purdy just had an all-time outlier EPA per play season, one of the best we've literally ever seen. Is he going to play at that level again? What is the future of Brandon Ayuk? What is the future of Deebo Samuel? Are those guys on this team in a month, 2 months? Is George Kittle going to stay healthy? Is Brock Purdy going to stay healthy? I don't know what the case is for them to be better when they got, top of career production out of guys like Brandon Ayuk and Brock Purdy and Christian McCaffrey. Those guys are going to be better? Unlikely. They could be pretty good. They could still be really good. But are they going to be better? Probably not. That leaves the Packers. Those are the teams. And then Detroit. What is the case for Detroit to be better? Okay, Sam Laporta in year 2. Jahmyr Gibbs in year 2. Ben Johnson's back. Is Jared Goff going to turn into a pumpkin? I don't know. But they lose Josh Reynolds. They don't really have a replacement for him. Jameson Williams is not someone that can be relied upon to carry your offense if you have an injury to Amon-Ra St. Brown. So I don't know that there's a straightforward case that they're going to be significantly better this year. There is an easy case for the Packers, and it is Jordan Love. From week 10 on, I know we've gone over some of these stats before, but just to remind you, because I think people have already forgot. From week 10 on, Jordan Love was first in completion percentage above expectation, second in EPA per play and completion percentage, second in passing grade, second in pressure to sack rate. He was third in success rate, third in Pro Football Focus grade, and third in big time throw percentage. I've said this before, and I will say it again. In the second half of the season, Jordan Love was the best quarterback in the NFL. If that's the version of Jordan Love that the Packers are going to get moving forward, and we have every reason to believe that was based on him settling in, the players around him settling in, because, as I said, this was the youngest group of pass catchers in modern NFL history. You didn't have Jordan Love throwing to Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel and George Kittle. He was throwing to Jaden Reed and Dontavian Wicks and Tucker Kraft because Luke Musgrave was hurt, or Christian Watson was in and out of the lineup. He didn't have Aaron Jones to check it down to or to stay ahead of the sticks handing the ball every play. It was A.J. Dillon and Emmanuel Wilson trying to ham and egg it if they could. And more often than not, they couldn't. But when Aaron Jones was healthy, week 14 through the playoffs, they were fourth in EPA per rush and fourth in success rate. How many teams can reasonably say we are a top 5 passing offense and a capable of being a top 5 rushing offense? The Packers can say that. The 49ers can say that. Maybe the Eagles can say that. We'll see with the Ravens, with Derrick Henry. I don't know if they can be a top 5 passing offense. Anybody else? Am I missing someone? Then you add in Luke Musgrave year 2, Tucker Kraft year 2, Jaden Reed, Dontavian Wicks, year 2. Christian Watson, apparently healthy, looking great, feeling great. Hamstring problems under control. You bring in Josh Jacobs. You fortify this offensive line. We're going to talk about Jordan Morgan a little bit later. We have so many reasons. Matt LaFleur, year 2, we saw it. 2019 didn't go perfectly. And then in 2020, this offense took off. I think this offense is going to take off in 2024. And I think not only can they be the best offense in the league, I think they have the strongest argument that they will be, because I think they have the best case for improvement year over year. I think they have the deepest roster of skill players in the NFL. And I think they have one of the best coach quarterback combinations in the league. If the version of Jordan Love that we saw in the second half of last year shows up this year for a full season, this is the best offense in football. Now, if you want to throw cold water on this, you will talk about growth not always being linear. Be cool. We're talking about player development. We're going to talk about that in just a second here on Locked On Packers. It's winner take all time in the NBA and NHL, and FanDuel is giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. You could bet on Jordan Love MVP futures. I like that. I actually would like it better if the odds were a little longer. I think they're a little shorter than I would like them to be right now, because I think there's still a decent chance he could win it. But, like 25-1 would be a lot more fun than 13-1. Still, might be worth a couple dollars. You could bet on some NBA futures. Maybe not the Celtics at minus 1,400 to win their series. Yikes, Cavaliers, yikes. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. And thanks to everyone who makes Locked On Packers their first listen every day. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. If you want to be a cynic, or you want to be a hater, or you want to be a Bears fan, you would say, well, progress isn't always linear. And that's true, right? Christian Watson looked like he was ready to explode this last season, and an injury scuttled that explosion. But that's explainable. That's not just like, oh, he didn't play as well. He got hurt. And sometimes, as we saw with Eric Stokes, you get hurt, and then even when you get back to health, you're not confident in your body, or you're not confident in general, and you lose your edge, and it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. It becomes a cycle. And these are reasons why players can fail, players who were actually set up to succeed, and they don't handle adversity well or unforeseen circumstances. Kevin King early in his career showed a lot of flashes. 2018 Kevin King looked like he could be a legit cornerback 1. The injuries just added up and added up and added up. And over time, it just sapped the athleticism to the point that it couldn't work. He just didn't have the baseline athleticism at that size to be a boundary corner, and never had the change of direction to be a slot. That's why he ended up being like a kind of like a dime linebacker or nickel safety type at the end in Green Bay. This idea that progress isn't always linear, I need to see a reason. I'm talking specifically about this offense. And, the common refrain will be, well, you get a whole offseason to study this stuff. Okay. Can you remind me what offense the Packers ran in 2020 when Aaron Rodgers was the MVP? And then what offense they ran in 2021 when Aaron Rodgers was the MVP? And can you remind me what offense the Dolphins ran last year when they were a top 5 offense? And can you remind me what offense the Rams won with Jared Goff and went to a Super Bowl? And then the one they went to the Super Bowl with the Rams and won with Matthew Stafford? Or that the 49ers have gone to 2 Super Bowls with 2 different quarterbacks? Oh, it's the bones of the same offense. It's all the Shanahan tree offense. Oh. And no one's figured it out yet? Oh. This is one of those rare, remember in the 90s when everyone wanted a West Coast Mike Holmgren disciple? It wasn't just Steve Mariucci and Andy Reid. It was Marty Morningwig and all these guys who were just not very good. Is there a version of that right now with this tree? With the Shanahan tree? Maybe Robert Saleh, but you wanted something else. The offense. I'm talking about the offense. Sean McVay, really, really good coach. Matt LaFleur, really good coach. Mike McDonald, really good coach. Kevin Stefanski looks like really good coach. Kevin O'Connell looks like a really good coach. It seems like every time, Zach Taylor even, they went to the freaking Super Bowl. I know they have Joe Burrow, but they had to adapt that offense and they did it. Do I think, Zach Taylor is a genius? No. He's the worst of a group of really good coaches. It's not a bad place to be. Someone, by definition, has to be the worst of that group, and it's him, but he's still an average to above average coach in the NFL. And I think last year proved it when they with backup quarterback play. Jake Browning played well, but come on. They didn't even have a full complement of healthy receivers through that whole process either. So all these guys, this offense is right now in the league unstoppable. So don't tell me that the league is going to have figured out Jordan Love when he comes back because Jared Goff is in stop number 2 kicking everyone's ass. Just taking easy money. Sean McVay did it with multiple quarterbacks. Matt LaFleur has now done it with multiple quarterbacks. Kyle Shanahan, multiple quarterbacks. Kevin Stefanski just went to the freaking postseason with Joe Flacco, for crying out loud. Took Baker Mayfield to the playoffs. And Jordan Love is better than maybe everyone that I just named. Matthew Stafford, that one season was pretty awesome. I don't see any reason why that would regress for him because of what we saw in the second half of the season. It was confidence and belief in the guys around him. That's what seemed different. Just going out and letting it rip. Hitting the back foot and throwing to a place if necessary. And now, after a year of seeing Jaden Reed make those plays for you, and Dontavian Wicks make those plays for you, and Romeo Doubs, and Tucker Kraft, and Luke Musgrave, and Christian Watson. If one of Jaden Reed and Dontavian Wicks slumps a little bit year 2, for whatever reason, injury, whatever it is, you have the other one. The same is true with Tucker Kraft and Luke Musgrave. The same is true with Romeo Doubs and Christian Watson. The same is true with the running backs right now because now you have 3 with Marshawn Lloyd. I don't see a case. I don't see a credible case. It's not going to be a schematic one, and it wouldn't make sense for you to say, "Oh, the league is going to get the book on Jordan Love," when the more they saw him last year, the more he kicked their ass. He played his best football at the end of the year. He played his best football the second time he saw these defenses. It is not a coincidence, and the Packers have said as much, that the second time they played the Lions, the second time they played the Vikings, they beat the Bears up pretty good both times, but the Bears defense was playing much better the second time against everyone else. And the Packers did not have any problems moving the ball on those teams. Did not have really any problems moving the ball on the 49ers. Beat the brakes off the Dallas Cowboys in the playoffs. Dan Quinn got a head coaching job. And they pants that team on national television. Where is the evidence? Where is the evidence? I don't see it. I don't see it. Now, speaking of evidence, we don't want to take too much from Packers rookie camp. What can we take? We'll talk about it next on Locked On Packers. All right, game off. We got to pause here to talk about Monopoly Go. I know what you're saying, flagging the play. You already talked about that. But there is so much good stuff in this game. In Monopoly Go, you can team up with friends for timed tournaments where you work together to build up each other's boards. The more you win together, the more awesome prizes you unlock. And there's so much to get. Unique stickers you can trade with friends to complete albums for big prizes. Cool new playing pieces to travel the boards with. Hilarious emojis for taunting friends when you smash their buildings or heist their vaults. Plus, Monopoly Go feels new and exciting every day with constantly changing tournaments and challenges. A ton include their own unique mini games like digging for treasure or a robot pachinko game. And there's always new timed events that help you win big, like massive multipliers for everything you win or rent frenzies. And there's always something fun to discover in Monopoly Go. So go get off the bench and go download it now, free on Google Play or the App Store. Game on. And thanks to everyone who makes Locked On Packers their first listen every day. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. And now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. So what can we really learn at rookie camp? I will never again make the mistake of getting excited about the quality of play at rookie camp or getting disappointed about the quality of play. I can't do it. I am tainted by what happened with Josh Jones when, by all accounts, he looked like the second coming of Troy Polamalu and had one good game against Cincinnati and then was essentially a non-NFL player after that. It hurts me to this day because I loved Josh Jones coming out of school. Before the Packers even took him, I was just like, man, I love this guy. The athleticism off the charts. I was so excited to watch him play, and it just did not go anything like it was supposed to. So that's not the part of it that I think is even relevant for us to talk about. I want to know where guys were. Where were they playing? And to me, the most important one is, where was Jordan Morgan? And the answer is left tackle. If you're going to have him fill in and play guard, okay, he's got to learn how to play guard. He is probably going to have to switch sides. So you'd think you'd want to start that process as early as possible. It's interesting they didn't do that he was the left tackle. Also interesting, I mentioned that I felt like Javon Bullard's best place on this team was in the slot in a Jimmy Ward type role. That was what I believed the team envisioned with him. Now, whether or not that is true for the long haul, that was not where he was consistently lining up during Packer rookie camp. Mostly safety. Same with Evan Williams. And so that's interesting because Brian Gutekunst has said he wants those positions to be interchangeable. So if they're interchangeable, at some point you got to practice that. Now, training camp, there's plenty of time left. Like there's There's still, mandatory mini camps and all those things for us to get more of this insight. I find that interesting. And then there's questions about these linebackers. Where are these linebackers going to play? And it sounds like Edgerrin Cooper was playing more of an outside linebacker type position. If you're going to play this 4-3, I think he is a profiles as a run and hit, run and chase linebacker on the outside. Now, does that mean I think he can't play the mic? No. But I think he profiles best as a will linebacker. So who's going to play the mic? Is it Quay Walker? He was the mic last year and did not play well. Is it going to be Tyron Hopper? Is he going to have that opportunity? You can say that they're undersized. They're almost identical in terms of size to the 49ers' current linebackers. I don't want to say anything declarative at the moment, but that is something that we have to monitor, because Isaiah McDuffie is, frankly, I think a backup. Where do those guys ultimately land? Like, Quay Walker's going to be in the starting lineup doing something. Is he going to play Sam? And then is Isaiah McDuffie and Tyron Hopper going to battle it out for the Mike linebacker? Are you going to leave the green dot of your defense, your new defense, to a former day 3 pick and a 3rd round pick that was, by all accounts, a pretty big reach by the consensus? No, you could give Xavier McKinney the green dot. You could do something else. And then also, how much does this matter? Like, in nickel, the 2 linebackers on the field are almost certainly going to be Quay and Edge. So it doesn't matter as much. But I think it does tell us what they see as these players' best attributes and the kind of impact that they want these guys to have. It is something that I think is going to be a long road before we really get this all worked out, because no one is entrenched anywhere. And it would be nice to give Edgerrin Cooper a chance to win that Mike linebacker job. It'd be nice for him to do it. It'd be nice for Quay Walker to take that next step and look like a solid player, to live up to all the athletic ability that he has. We haven't seen it yet. So that is one. Like, Jordan Morgan seems to be a left tackle for now. Javon Bullard and these safeties seem to be safeties for now. I don't know that we can say anything for now about the linebacker position, but that is definitely one that we're going to have to watch. Mini camps, training camps early on, that is going to be the big thing that I'm going to be watching for, because in base, that's going to tell us, I think, a lot about where they see this defense going in the future. A lot more to come this week. We've got some interviews coming up. Those rookie orientation series. Brandon Thorne from Trench Warfare is coming on this week to talk about this offensive line class. We're working on scheduling with Jim Nagy from the Senior Bowl. All these Senior Bowl guys on this team. We had a great talk with him last year on that stuff. So a ton more to come this week. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Wherever you get podcasts, you will find Locked On Packers. On all the social medias, Instagram, TikTok, we're there, Locked On Packers. Go subscribe on YouTube so you can stay Locked On Packers.